Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy, the recap. We had an amazing guest with us this week, Dr. Thymai Dong-Sheehan, and she talked about how we can remember that we're all human and that we can be thoughtful about who we are and how we show up. She also said that every interaction should be a masterpiece. And that's really where I want to camp out for a few minutes. So I love being with people. I am 100% extrovert. I know that if any of you know me at all, you know that is actually true. Like, it fills my cup to be with others. And I love nothing more than to get to know those people, talk to them, socialize with them. And I think that every interaction really can be a masterpiece. Now, does that mean that you have to go deep with every conversation? No. But if that's your thing, then I think you should actually really get to know somebody. Or maybe you meet 5 people in the span of time that I meet 2. I don't think that everybody needs to approach interactions the same way, but I do think we can all make them masterpieces. So this podcast is called Productive Joy, right? And it's all about creating more of it. When you interact with others, you get to decide if it's a positive experience or a negative experience. And I'm going to guess that you've had both, that you've had moments where you did a really good job of making people feel great. And you've had moments where they left you feeling a little less than perfect. Well, guess what? You get to redo that every single day. You don't have to get stuck. You don't have to stay exactly the way you've always been. Instead, you get to decide what this interaction is, this one that's happening right now. So maybe you have a meeting later today, or a conversation that you think is going to be kind of tough. Let's talk about that for a second. So I wrote a book called Learning Can Stick. And in my book, I talk about how you make interactions safe, logical, fun, and memorable. And when we talk about interactions, this could be a meeting one-on-one. This could be a training where you're talking to 50 people. This could be a conversation with your kids in the car on the way home. But when you interact with others, you have to make it safe, logical, fun, and memorable. So let's start with safe, since we're talking about building masterpieces. Safe means that people know they can make mistakes, they can ask questions, and they don't have to know the answers. So often we enter conversations without giving anybody else any context as to what this conversation should include. So we'll say, I need to talk to you. Well, the problem with I need to talk to you is you could be talking to me about what we should wear to dinner, or you could be talking to me about the fact that you don't think our friendship needs to continue. And I don't know, because all you said is I need to talk to you. So safe means that you are creating an atmosphere where it's okay to ask those questions. It's okay to not know the answers. So are you making your interactions a masterpiece by making them safe? What's a way you could do that? It could be as simple as asking more questions than you give answers to. That's all it takes. Getting to know the people that you're talking to. All right, logical. Logical means you have a plan, you stick to the plan, but you can't be the only person who knows the plan. So this is back to that whole, I need to talk to you, telling somebody, I need to talk to you about XYZ, and it'll take about 10 minutes. That's a completely different experience than I need to talk to you. But logical is also telling people ahead of time what they can expect. So I recently had an opportunity to talk to somebody about an interaction they were going to have in a one-on-one, in a work setting. And I said, okay, what if you started with, what will it look like if this interaction is successful? And then wait and listen. Right? That sounds really easy, but how often do we start meetings that way? We don't. We tend to jump into whatever the agenda is. And the reality is that we might say, oh my gosh, that was the best meeting ever. But if we didn't ever ask the other person what they thought it should look like, all we know is that we think we hit the mark we set, not the mark that they necessarily had. All right, so logical also means telling people up front what to expect so that you aren't bulldozing them into your way. Fun. Fun means so many things to so many people, but our neurons only fire when there's some sort of emotion tied to what we're doing. So if you're going to talk to somebody and you're going to have this conversation, you're going to have these masterful interactions, you have to have some fun. So that might look like laughter. That might look like letting the people know that you see them and that they're valuable. It might be doing something a little silly, but the fun can't be skipped. Now, I do have a very specific definition of fun, and I know I've said it on here before, but let me say it again. Fun means three things. Fun means people feel valued and appreciated. Fun means people have a voice and they're allowed to use it. And fun means people are able to leverage their talents for the greater good. Those are fun things, regardless of your personality. So make sure you make your interactions fun. And then last but not least, you have to make them memorable. This is the part people forget. You cannot be a one and done and expect people to remember everything you said. So I have dear friends that we talk all the time on Marco Polo. If you are not a Marco Polo user, it is a fun way for you to have asynchronous conversations with people via video. And we talk on there often. And what will frequently happen is we'll be telling a story and we'll get in a big way of talking, and then the next person will answer the next day or later that day, and that person will forget something. Now, these are excellent listeners who typically get it all right, but because I only said it once, they might miss something. So you have to instead be memorable with your conversations. You have to sprinkle, splash, flood, drip, drip, drip that information. The sprinkle splash is like a preview to a movie. It happens before the actual flood of information. So this might be an email that says, hey, we're meeting on Tuesday, and here are the three things we're going to talk about. The flood is the meeting, is the event, is the experience. That is where most of the information is shared. The problem with a flood is we lose most of that information, that water, in runoff. We can't absorb everything from a flood. We have to drip, drip, drip off the trees afterwards. So the drip, drip, drip might be a follow-up email. It might be a follow-up conversation. It might be a reminder note that says, hey, you said you would do this. Please do by Friday. This happens with spouses. This happens with kids. We frequently flood them with all the things they need to do, and then we forget the drip, drip, drip. So you've got to do the drip, drip, drip. And yes, there are 3 drips on purpose. You can't just have one. So why am I talking about this after Thymai gave us all of her great information? Because if you want your interactions to be masterpieces, you must make them safe, logical, fun, and memorable. So today, I want to remind you that you have a lot more influence over your conversations than you might realize. That influence comes in a lot of different ways, but what I want you to focus on today is the one thing that maybe I mentioned that you don't necessarily do yet. So maybe you're really good at being logical and you're clear with what you expect, and you're super good at being fun, but you're not always safe. Then let's lean into that. Or maybe you've never thought about the one and done thing and you're like, oh yeah, I typically say something once and I expect everybody got it. They didn't. They weren't listening. So how can you grab one of those characteristics? Those are the 4 conditions necessary for a great conversation, and lean into that one. That's the nugget I want you to take with you today, because as always, I am trying to leave you better than I found you, with something that you can actually use to change practice. So what's the thing you're going to carry with you today? What's the one nugget of wisdom? Because if you don't use it, then this was a waste of your time. And I hate the thought of wasting your time. So grab that thing, whatever it is, and then do me a favor and figure out a way to take that thing and use it so that you can turn fun into action.